We really wanted to set out to make commercial work, but ultimately we wanted to set out, essentially get paid to learn a craft, to kind of learn how to make things, to tell stories, to share ideas. And motion and commercial animation is a wonderful way of doing that.
Hey Hatchlings, welcome to the Motion Hatch podcast. I'm your host, Hayley Akins. Hey Hatchlings, this is episode 56 of the Motion Hatch podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. If you don't know, this is a podcast where we talk about the business side of motion design and animation. On this week's show, we have Zac Dixon from Ivy Studios. Some of you will probably remember him as the host of the Animalators podcast, so it's really great to have him on the show. He's recently been doing a ton of awesome things, including making a board game called Moonrakers, which I'm really excited about. So we spoke about that, and we spoke about how to get the attention of clients and studios, how to fit in your passion projects, and what to include in your portfolio as well. Just before we get into this episode, I want to remind you about the Freelance Contract Bundle. This is a set of contract templates made specially for motion designers and animators. It includes a freelance terms of service contract for day rate and hourly projects that you do in-house, and a commission contract for direct-to-client work. So if you're interested in checking that out, head over to our website to motionhatch.com/contract. Now let's get into the episode. Hey Zac, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. This is awesome.
So you seem like you have quite a lot of things going on. You made Bouncy Smash, you were the host of Animalators, creative director and founder of Ivy Studio, and one of your team's writing a novel that you made a trailer for, and you made a board game. How do you fit all this in?
Yeah, we've got a lot going on, but it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, it seems pretty crazy. Like, do you want to tell people a bit about like the things that you have going on? I just can't believe you're doing all this stuff, like as well as running a motion design studio, basically.
It's kind of hard to describe kind of where we're at because we're still trying to figure out where we're at and where we're going a little bit. So some of this might be a little bit, I don't know, all over the place, but I'll do my best. But yeah, so Ivy is a studio. Kind of our main focus is commercial animation. I started with my business partner, Samuel Cowden, in 2012 when we moved here to Nashville. We've been here ever since. Our team's grown since then. 9 or 10 of us full-time at this point. And recently, over the past few years, we've kind of been dabbling in a few other different things. We've had Animalators for a little while, which has kind of been on a long hiatus, kind of as we figure out a little bit about more where we're going. That might kind of influence a little bit of the future of Animalators. We can talk about more of that if you want. But that was a podcast very much like this one, where I had the wonderful opportunity of talking to some of the most talented people in the kind of commercial animation industry. And then, we made a video game a couple years ago called Bouncy Smash as a studio. This year, we shipped a board game called Moonrakers. We haven't shipped it yet. Just the Kickstarter just finished up, and we made that as a studio. We'll be continuing to come out with more board games. We're already prototyping our next one, and hopefully more video games. And then looking to the future, we're trying to get a animated television show off the ground as well. All the while continuing to do our commercial animation work, because still that is what's paying the bills. So, and also wonderful work. That's a very high level overview of kind of where we're at.
I mean, it's incredible. I can't believe you're already planning on doing another board game. That's so cool.
Yeah, it really helps. I mean, we've one of the kind of ways that we've been able to kind of do these different things is the wonderful team that we have, a wonderful staff that loves these kind of diverse projects and these kind of diverse creative opportunities that we choose to take on. And so that's been really helpful. Austin Harrison is still technically our relationship director, as always. Him and me and Max, who's our technical director, I've always loved board games. It's something that we've always wanted to do. And yeah, we had an idea for a game, and we were like, we could do this. I think we could do this. And so kind of Austin shifted his role. We had a ton of work coming in on the commercial animation side, which Austin had worked really hard to kind of get that to a place where it was really snowballing, which was great. So he had some time. And so for the last year, really, he's been working on that. It came out, and it came out to some success, which is awesome, and kind of allows us to keep going and make something more. So there's a chance we might have maybe a 2-person team kind of focusing on physical products moving forward.
Cool. Yeah. So I want to ask you more about Moonrakers, but first I wanted to ask you why it's important to you to create projects outside of your client work and even outside of what is expected for a motion design studio.
There is a lot to unpack there. So, a few things. In general, when we started IV all the way back, I don't know, it's been 7 years now, which seems like a long time. We really wanted to set out to make commercial work, but ultimately we wanted to set out to essentially get paid to learn a craft, to kind of learn how to make things, to tell stories, to share ideas, and motion and commercial animation is a wonderful way of doing that. And we set out to work with some the biggest clients in the world, and we've been really truly lucky enough to be able to do that. But also one of the beginnings, like one of the goals at the beginnings, was also to like get a chance to, I don't know, tell stories and share ideas that we come up with and that we are proud of. And yeah, and also, like, I think I have such diverse interests, and I have such, and I'm just very curious about all these things, and I would just love the chance to be able to work in all these different areas, whether it's games or physical products or television or film. Yeah, and I would really love the opportunity to work in those spaces. So does Sam, my business partner, and so does our whole team. And no one is going to give you those opportunities. You just have to do them. You just have to make them. And I realize that that's not possible for everyone. I kind of feel responsible. I feel responsible to my staff. I feel responsible to myself. I really want to take as many shots as we can at making things that we love and that we're proud of. And for me, that's stuff like this. And yeah, so, and I also think that also feeds into everything else that we're doing. These kind of experiences are invaluable to any creative work. And I think they all kind of come back and tie together when you're kind of pursuing these diverse and pursuing a range of experiences and a range of work, because it all comes back to each other and all feeds into one another.
I just wondered, like, how do you figure out what ideas you feel are worth pursuing? Because lots of people have lots of ideas all the time, right? And I guess everyone listening to this is probably thinking, like, yeah, I've got all these ideas and like stuff outside of motion design or personal projects like the animations and stuff like that. But how do you personally go about like kind of saying, okay, well, this one I want to do it, but like maybe we'll either leave that for another time or, it's not as important as this other idea?
Oh yeah, and there are a lot of ideas that we've started and have fallen off to the side. A lot of ideas that we want to do right now. We're in an interesting spot where there's two sides of it, at least for me. I think one is passion. So one is three sides. One is passion. It's just like, what am I excited about, right? Is this something that like I just can't stop thinking about? That will make it fun, and that fun will drive you to work on it. You keep coming back to it. But don't get me wrong, though, there are just many, many, many parts of making these things that are not fun. We're sitting around and we're prepping all the files for print and choosing Pantone colors and just moving little things around in Illustrator, and I'm terrible at Illustrator and not very fun for me. But yeah, I think whatever is fun for you, I think will help push you through vast amount of time, energy, and work it takes to bring these things into the world. That's one of the things. And then I also think long-term goals. Where do you want to end up? So for me, I would like to continue doing commercial animation, but I would also love to be able to build a studio that can fund creative projects that people love and also make us money, so we can continue to making creative projects that we're passionate about and that we initiate ourselves. That will give us an opportunity to tell the stories and share ideas that we want to, that we're passionate about. So yeah, so long-term goals. So a lot of things is, and the other thing that I think plays into the long-term goals is like, long-term goals is, what do you want to learn? Bouncy Smash, first game that we made as a studio. I've always wanted to make games. There's just tons of wonderful resources online. Always wanted to work in game dev. Yeah, long term, I love to make interactive experiences in games, and so that was a great opportunity to learn that, to just start it. Found a project that I really enjoyed working on, and that just kind of made me hungry to just devour anything online that I could about it. So yeah, second thing is long-term goals. How will these kind of things push you towards your long-term goals, for your own creative career or for your team's creative career? And then the third one that doesn't necessarily apply to everyone, but does apply to us, is, will it make money? Bouncy Smash did not make money. That was fine. It wasn't our goal. Moonrakers will make money. It's kind of a hazy thing because we put a ton of time into it and we put a ton of our staff resources into it, but we also ran a ton of Instagram ads and paid money to Alex Grendling, who designed the game. We flew to conferences and did YouTube shows. All this stuff costs money. So it's like the Kickstarter, I think when it's all said and done, I think with add-ons raised around $560,000, which is
Yeah,
awesome and
that's
great.
great.
And for an individual, that is a life-changing amount of money. But for a studio that has 9 full-time employees, that is not a life-changing amount of money, if that makes sense. Basically, with having a staff and with having a business, we do at the end of the day need to make money because we all have I need to live and eat, and I need to pay my employees and our rent and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so for us now, looking forward, all of the ideas that we put time, money, and energy into need to have at least some kind of financial upside for it to be worth our time. That's not always the case if it's small, but for whatever reason, I really enjoy the big things that take sometimes years to happen. And so those type of things just need to have some kind of return.
But how do you work that out? Like, I think this is awesome. I'm really enjoying this conversation, but this is a problem, isn't it? It's like you don't know when you, like, well, I imagine when you started making Moonrakers, if it was going to make that much. Your goal on Kickstarter was like 40,000 or something. Is that right?
That wasn't the real goal. That was, yes, it was. It was
Oh, that was like
that.
the get funded goal or whatever. Like, I don't know how
So
these things
essentially,
work. So enlighten me.
no, sure. So the 40,000 was just our minimum order. It's basically
Right.
what is the smallest amount that we can order from our manufacturing partner,
Okay.
which is
Yeah,
called
that makes sense.
Panda. So basically, it's like if we want to do the minimum run of Moonrakers, which was if we could do that, that'd be great. And so that was where that number came from. But another thing, and this is something that the way Sam and I run our business, we try and keep things all cash. So cash flow management is a really big thing. I am extremely conservative when it comes to business finances. Sam pushes me a little bit more, but together we are still both very conservative. We didn't take on any loans or anything for any of our projects. And yeah, so basically with Bouncy Smash, with Moonrakers, with the projects that we're working on now, we've tried to structure our money in a way that if they don't make any money, it's fine. Like we're not betting the house on any of these projects. And that's due to just saving money, trying to be smart with our other business practices. Because I really think like a lot of these things and a lot of these aspirations, the things that we want to do, it is a bit of a numbers game. You've got to try and try and try. I think sometimes it can be easy to kind of sit in a place and be like, eventually these things will come to me, right? Like I'll keep my head down, I'll keep working on what I'm doing, and then like maybe someone will give me the shot to direct this thing I want to direct, or maybe someone will give me a shot to like, I don't know, like art direct a video game with them or something. It's like in my experience, it doesn't work that way. And maybe it does for other people, but I think that your best bet is to just go out and like just give it a shot. And I understand that not everyone's in a position to do that, and I understand that I'm privileged in that way, but I think that it is, in some senses, you have to make your own opportunities. And so that's what we're going to keep doing. We're just going to keep trying to find a way to make the things that we want to make, but also be smart about it, and also try and set us up in a way that, we can sustain a business off of those things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, there's like so much stuff that I want to go into. It's like hard to keep track. So, yeah, I was sort of thinking about when you're talking about like saving money in your business, are you sort of putting some of the profit that you make from your client work, are you setting that aside and actually budgeting that into like a project that is like a studio project?
Yes. Yeah. Sam, I should have had Sam on the show, but Sam is our executive producer and kind of functions like a CEO. He's got the master spreadsheet of kind of all of our incoming, our outgoing. We just have line items. We had line items for Moonrakers. We weren't quite this far along with Bouncy Smash that we didn't really send. That was just mostly my time. It wasn't a lot of funds put into that. But yeah, we're trying to get our television show off the ground. So we have a line item for that. Working on a short film. We got a line item for that. Moonrakers had a budget. Yeah, and that kind of all counted against our kind of master our like kind of master budget sheet. Although very recently, our lawyer has been like, all right, we need to we're setting up like LLCs for Moonrakers and the new show we're working on and all that stuff. And then we have like a LLC that sits above all of it. I don't know how in the weeds we want to get to all this stuff, but that stuff's been interesting and helpful. So it's starting to split up a little bit more and become a little bit more complicated now that we have things that are actually like money's coming in. We kind of have to wait to track that and offset fiscal years. Woo!
Yeah.
All that good stuff.
I was just thinking about like you said you went to conferences. Obviously, you were like probably talking to some like YouTube influencers, stuff like that. Like, how did you learn how to kind of do all that marketing stuff? And was that difficult, for all of the projects, but like Moonrakers especially, because I think you did a great job. So,
Oh, thank you. The wonderful thing about motion and animation is we just make ads all day, right? I mean,
yeah.
that's what we do. And that's another reason why we wanted to do this, right? It's like we love this kind of work, and it's like let's find out a way to make the kind of work that we want to do. So we got to make some stuff that might be in Star Wars or something. That's a ton of fun. Sorry, I derailed from your question, but yeah, basically just like a ton of research. So it helps that we've got, myself included, just some very nerdy people on staff. We're aware of the major YouTube shows and things like that. And luckily that's part of their living, right? It's people reaching out to them, you pay them X amount of money and they'll let you on their show essentially. So it's actually not terribly difficult. And they've all been wonderful, all the people that we've met. And then the other really fun and exciting part of Moonrakers is we got to be kind of on the other side of the client relationship that we're used to in commercial animation. So we just made tons of ads, and we at Sam had we have a kind of a office inside of a shipping container that's just his office, and he had like all these like Facebook and Instagram like up, and we had Kickstarter up, and we were doing all this analytics and just tons and tons of A/B testing on like which ads were performing better than others. And that is a very it was a very enlightening experience, because when you're doing stuff like that, it does not matter keyframes and like which is this, the best looking, or has the most interesting like high concept thing, or like it doesn't, none of that stuff matters. The only thing that matters is like what's working. And in our case, a lot of what was working was just like photography. Like, oh, we've got these ads that have just like the coolest keyframes and effects and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, is like if a simple photo is going to get more people to click through to your page and grab their attention and see what you're working on, that's what you're going to use. So that was a lot of fun and a really big learning experience, and also definitely something that we're going to bring to our client work as well.
How did you learn about doing stuff like Facebook ads and Instagram ads and things like that? Because obviously, like, we're not really utilizing that in the motion design industry. And I think it's really interesting. This was a physical project. I guess it's different, but I could see it working in some cases for motion design people too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's interesting because that's like a lot of what we're making now. I mean, at least our studio, like we might be making like a 60-second brand film or something like that. But we're also, now a lot of what we're doing is pulling out like 5-second clips, 10-second clips, and they're all for Instagram, and they're all for, LinkedIn or whatever the company's using to drive business. So I actually do think it's something that we're just on the other side of it. We're making the content for them to use. I don't know. I think I honestly did not run the ads. This is definitely a Sam and Austin question, but I mean, there's a lot of great resources out there, and we just did a lot of testing, just a lot of trial and error, and we'll be able to use that for the next time, which is great. We built an email list. That was something that we read a lot of blogs, and they're like, build an email list, and so I think we went into the Kickstarter campaign with around 8,000 emails on that email list, which I don't know causation, correlation, it's hard to say, but we ended up with around 7,000 backers. So who knows how many of those converted? It's a little difficult to track things on Kickstarter. But yeah, I think there's a lot of blogs. It's like learning anything. It's like there are Andrew Kramers of the board game space. There are a lot of very generous people who have shared their kind of wealth of knowledge and in a very generous way.
Yeah. So with the email list, did you have something like to attract people to that email list and things like that? Because that's always important.
Definitely. Instagram ads, honestly, was the biggest driving factor in that. It's a huge testament to Alex Grendling and the artwork that he created for Moonrakers. I think that was huge. And I think the theme and some of the messaging that we created around those ads. But really, yeah, it was just people clicking through. They liked what they saw in the ads we were running, and those converted into emails.
Do you think this is stuff that you will use for your studio eventually? Like, as in, like, maybe utilizing Instagram ads and stuff like that?
Probably not for the commercial animation side of things. In our experience, that has been highly relational. And I assume that's what you're asking about is on the kind of commercial
Yeah,
animation
yeah,
side.
yeah. Just as like something, because I think it's interesting, and I'm just wondering if it can work in any way for, studios and things like that. I mean, it's all about targeting, isn't it? And who you're trying to target.
Definitely. Yeah, I don't know. I think for us and our size and the type of work that we're aiming for, I think no. Our kind of key to business growth has actually been face to face. And so Sam and Austin, so Sam, my business partner, and Austin, our relationship director, it's been a couple of years now. Basically, the year they picked a city every single month. I think LA, New York, Chicago, Charlotte, Atlanta. I cannot remember them all, but they picked a city every month and they basically had a threshold for the amount of quality meetings to take in that city. So this was basically set up a kind of threshold for revenue per year. We thought like if you have this amount of revenue, your marketing spend will be probably around this, and then that means that you could afford $50,000 video, maybe a couple times a year. And so that was kind of the type of company and agency that we looked at. Tried to get meetings with around 8 or 10 of those, and then they just did that. They just did that for a year, got lots of airline miles, and we really saw a big boom of business from that. And that's really a testament to their super hard work and their charisma or whatever. I have no idea, and also the strength of our body of work, all that stuff. And yeah, and we had a really big boom of work that year, and we've been kind of catching up to that ever since. So yeah, so kind of circling back to your original question, I don't think so. Not for the type of work that we as a studio need to be getting, just because our team is so big, our overhead's a bit larger than maybe a freelancer,
Hmm.
and so the type of work we need to be getting seems to be much more of a more relational mix of like, oh hey, I remember Austin, he visited us from IV 2 weeks ago. Oh, we got this project, they'd be perfect for that. It's this weird combination. I don't know. Maybe it could be good for getting back in someone's mind to be like, yeah, I remember them. Like, we have this project right now. So I don't know. Maybe.
I just think it's an interesting thing because, more people in the motion design industry are doing kind of lots of different side projects and things like that. And, physical products and like people doing like illustrative books and things like that. I think it's very useful for that kind of thing. Yeah, just going back to the, relationship building for your studio. I think that's awesome. And I think that's something that like people can use if they're like remote freelancers and stuff like that. And they want to get like some more remote clients, is kind of visiting different cities where that maybe there's like a little bit more of a bigger market. I think that's a nice idea.
Definitely. And it helps too. Like, we love it when we work a lot with Preston Gibson, and love working with him every chance we get. But he dropped by the studio, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and we got to hang out with him and just have a beer. And I don't know, that was just really fun. I like it. I like, meeting people in person and getting the chance to hang out with people, because there's a lot of great people in this industry.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to know about like how you got meetings with those clients that you were kind of saying you had like a threshold. Like, how did you figure that out? The people who made enough money that they could pay you, but then how did you kind of get a meeting with them as well?
There are big books that you can buy that have like contact lists and like yearly revenue and things like that. I don't remember what those are called. So we use a little bit of that. There's also like some of that stuff's publicly available if you just do some Googling. And you can kind of guess by like staff size, and there's a pretty big correlation there. And then as far as reaching out, I mean, it's just quantity. Like, I think per meeting, Austin probably sent 50 emails or something like that. Like, it's just a lot of work. And the reason that we were able to do that is we have Austin. That was his and is his full-time job, although now it's board games. But it just takes a lot of work, and that's something that we wanted to invest in for whatever reason. We're just like, I don't know, seems like a good idea. Early on, when we didn't know anything, we still don't know anything, but a little bit more. It's just a whole lot of emails, and eventually you just get a few bites. And we tried to do some optimization of our website. We created a lot of custom landing pages. So it's just like, this is a healthcare client. Like, we've done some work in that space. Let's put together like a website that they're going to land at that has some very clear, like, here's what we did for this company, maybe case studies, things like that. And so, yeah, so when we're going after something, I think we set up, like, we had an agency landing page, just kind of showing the variety of types of work that we do. And then we had some industry focused landing pages on our website. So we wanted to get into tech space. We focused a lot on that. That type of thing is what ended up landing us our biggest client now, which is Amazon, who've been a really consistent client for us, and people like Netflix and stuff like that.
So I think there's a few things there that we haven't like really talked about on the podcast before, which is really great. Is like we've never talked about making like different landing pages for different people. I think we've definitely spoken about making your emails more towards the clients that you're, instead of like doing this blanket thing, like most freelancers and motion designers and like small studios, I think they just like send out tons and tons of emails and it'll just be like the same email. And I feel like that's not going to get you anywhere. And I feel like that's what you're talking about, even though you didn't say it with the email as well. But like you're definitely like customizing all the emails and saying, hey, go to this page, which you've like specifically made to appeal to that type of client, which I think is excellent.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's so hard to make a website, like honestly, especially with just the many styles of work that there are and the many types of work that they are. And then it honestly feels like sometimes it's a bit like gambling. Like, are they going to click on the project that you want them to? Right. I mean, it's like, as someone who sifts through a lot of freelance portfolios, it's just like, I didn't schedule time in my day to do this, but I have to pick somebody. And so I'm going through and I just like, I don't know, this one looks interesting. And then you watch a little bit of it and it's like, maybe, one more. And then you're just on to the next one because you have to be. And I think people who are hiring us are exactly the same. So anything you can do to just like make sure at the very least that they're watching what you want them to watch and reading the things that you want them to read, I think is huge because they need to latch on quick. From experience, like I know really quickly if an animator or an illustrator is right for the projects that we're working on. And it's really hard to like overcome that first experience.
Like what kind of things are you looking for if you're looking at portfolios and stuff like that? What kind of stands out to you? What stands out to you in a good way and a bad way, I guess would be interesting.
I think this is a pretty common thing, but you don't need a lot of stuff on your portfolio. Honestly, like I think from keyframing, generally I'm not a huge fan of reels. Reel intros actually are great because they're a
Yeah.
chance to be like, they're a chance for you to say like, oh, this is the kind of stuff I want, if you're an animator, this is the kind of stuff I want to be keyframing, or if this is the like cell work I want to be doing. And that's what I want you on, right? Like I want to know the type of project you want to do, right? Because I want you to be invested in my project. I don't want someone who's going to come in and not be stoked about it because like there's no reason we should not be having a good time. Sometimes there is, but I want someone who's going to come in and be passionate. So I really want to place anyone who comes in to work with us on something that they're going to enjoy working on. So I think that's one thing. Tell me what you want to work on, really, because I want to know. I want to help you work on those things too. That's the way I think that we can all make our best work. And so I've actually found reel intros to be really helpful with that. I also look at Instagram a lot. If you don't have an Instagram, don't worry about it. I won't look at it. I'll just look at your website. But one of the things that's helpful about social media is to just see like what you've been doing recently and also what you're doing in your spare time for fun, because I assume that's what you want to be doing more of. And I would love to do that with you.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, because we have a mastermind and we talk to people in our mastermind about like, what clients are looking for and things like that. And I remember a conversation that I had the other day and someone was saying, but most of this is like personal work. Do you think that's okay? And I was like, that's what everyone keeps telling me they're looking for. That's what everyone's looking for because that's where you can see your style, like you say, what you're interested in, all of that kind of stuff. So it's just great to hear that again, reiterated back to me because I'm like, yes, see, this is what I'm saying. I feel like people just still worry like, oh, I need to have like tons and tons of client work. And it's like, yeah, but like most of the client work you do is probably not like the exciting stuff that you're passionate about and not the stuff that people like, like small studios like you who are doing kind of exciting work and want to work with animators who are doing great work. They're not really looking for that, like just like a logo, like when people do that logo placement thing. I'm not a fan of that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I do think another thing that I would love to see more of, honestly, is references. Because it's really easy to see like, can you do good work? But it's also hard sometimes to get the context around the way that work was done, the timeline. Did you work well on a team? And so if I can call up our friends at Oddfellows or Polyester or whatever, like if who you've worked with before, and just be like, hey, like did they hit their deadlines? Were they fun to work with and easy to work with, and did they communicate well, and all that kind of stuff? And because it's stressful, like it just is like none of our projects have ideal timelines. Like we've never gotten a project like, wow, so much time here. No, it's like we got to move, we got to bring on people that we can trust. And for that first experience of working with us, there isn't that trust, right? Like I see that your work is good, I see that you're talented, but like that trust is something that you build. And I think that that's something that, if you're trying to break into a studio or to working with a studio for the first time, I think that could really go a long way if you could just be like, hey, and feel free to call up this person. We just did a project together. If you need any references for kind of how this project went, I would totally, or one of our producers would totally drop an email and just say like, hey, how was this?
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought of that. A lot of things that I've spoke about before and other people have is like testimonials, more like that kind of thing. I guess because that's like less impactful on the other client's time, or
Definitely.
what I kind of came into my mind. One thing that I've also done in the past, which I think is a good tip for everyone, is because that you can have like testimonials on LinkedIn and stuff. So you could like ask for one via email after you finish a project, and then also like say, hey, is it okay if I hit you up via LinkedIn too? Because then it's quite nice. You get all those like recommendations on your LinkedIn page. And I think if people are looking at that, it looks pretty impressive because most people don't have that. And then you can put them on your website as well. So that's my tip for today.
Oh, definitely. That's great. I love that. And it's also like, I don't know if I will have time to call that reference, but like even just the fact that you had it, it's like, oh, like someone vouches for them. And that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. I think that some people have said like, "Oh, is it really important?" But like you say if like you've got two websites that kind of similar sort of work and level, like who you're going to go with? You're probably going to go with the person who has a few testimonials from like a few happy clients, right?
Definitely. Yeah, and I think another thing is just being persistent as well too. Not too persistent. Please don't email me every week. But just coming back with new work, because we just we don't say like they're no good, we're never gonna work with this. It's just like you're not ready yet is really what it comes down to. Just keep going. Like just keep practicing, keep making work, keep us informed. And so I think one of the key things is figure out who at a studio who's making these decisions of who they're going to hire from a freelance standpoint. Don't be sending emails to Austin. Austin doesn't hire anybody. Our studio, you're looking for Rebecca, our producer. Yeah, so like one of the things is like, hey, like if you're reaching out cold, it's just like, hey, who's in charge of staffing and freelancers? I'd love to just kind of show you this new project I've got. And yeah, that's at least the best way to cold email us. And then because a lot of times the way that we do it, just for a little bit of insight, we've got a new project that comes up. We need a frame by frame animator or a character animator or something. We've got a big old list, and Rebecca reaches out to some people, but also like kind of creates a little bit of a list of like, hey, here's people I think it might be good. Sends it to the creative director, either me or Taylor, our other creative director. And it's like who would be good on this, and so she's kind of the one keeping that list and making suggestions.
Do you think that it's okay to reach out? Because I always think ideally you want like a person's name at the place, right? And you want it to be the producer, the creative director, and things like that. But if you don't have that and you can't find that, you think it's okay to do the kind of, I don't know, most of the times it's like info at, and like just say, hey, who can I send this to? Who is the important person in this kind of process?
It's worth a shot. No one's going to write you an angry response back or anything like that. The worst thing that happens is you just don't get a response. So definitely, why not? Don't email every day or anything like that. But worst things that happen, you don't get a response. And I mean, in our experience, it's just quantity. You just got to keep at it. It never feels like it's going to work until it does.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I like that you said if someone's work isn't maybe good enough at the moment, just to email when they have like something new, because obviously like people's skills get better all the time and stuff like that. And what I hear a lot is people worrying and saying, oh, I really want to work with the studio, but I can't email them because I'm not good enough yet. And it's like, well, you don't know that. Most of the time, I think it's not true. But then even if it was, I'm always saying, yeah, but they're not just going to go like, oh, I remember that. I'm never, ever going to work with them ever again, even if they get better and they grow their skill set, either going to forget about it or, they're going to be like, yeah, maybe later, like you said earlier.
Oh no, it happens all the time. It happens all the time where it's like it doesn't take much. Like it could literally take one project. Like one solid project is all you need to if the work is not so great, I'm not like sitting here thinking about that. Like I'm just not. It's just like cool, we're moving on to the next project and they come back something great and then it's like, wow, this is amazing. You can do this for us. Let's do it if it's the right time and the right project. So all it takes is one solid project to change my mind at least.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I think it's coming back to the power of personal work and stuff. Definitely is like one of the biggest things for people to keep doing. In terms of that, kind of bringing it back to what we were start talking about in the beginning, is how do you manage your time in the studio, I guess, with your personal projects? And maybe we can like glean some help from that.
Poorly. No, it's a real challenge. It is. There's just a lot going on. That's one of the things that we've been trying to work on, is trying to be able to kind of free me up. And I'm it's tough for me to like step back from things sometimes too. It's really tough for me to let things go, where it's like, this could be better if I just like stepped in and like, helped out in this area, that like we don't have staff on this thing, or this didn't turn out how we had liked. Let's fix this up. And it's really hard for me to step away from those and just like let it go. And that's something I'm trying to get better at. And I think probably a lot of people can relate to. I think one of the things that's helped in running a small studio is I would like to focus on more of these kind of, how can we grow our studio? How can we kind of chase these big goals that we have? And so one of the things that's really helped has been, we've recently promoted Taylor Blair to a creative director role here, and she has been, up until this year, I've been directing like 6 projects at a time, while also trying to like make a game, or a film or a show or something like that. It's too much. I couldn't do it, and the work suffered because of that. Like truly, yeah. And she's just been stepping it up, and now I think she's directing 3 projects right now, and she's crushing it. And that's been really key. Yeah, it's just like trying to give away those responsibilities. We have so many talented people that work at Ivy, and trying to give as much responsibility to others as possible. Nate's directing one of my favorite projects that we've done right now, one of our animators, and he's doing a great job. And so, yeah, so I think giving out that stuff has been necessary for my own ability to get things done, but also like to kind of increase the diversity of Ivy's voice. Like it's amazing to see what Taylor or Nate or other people on the team come up with that I would never ever have thought of, and it just isn't my voice and isn't who I am, but is way better than anything that I could have done, and way perfect for the project. And so I think it's trying to build a team of leaders, of people who have diverse skill sets, and then being willing to just give up your role in some things. So that's been really fun to watch happen.
This kind of makes me think about, if you're a freelance animator, you have a lot of work, but you want to spend more time on personal projects. Like, do you think that there's value in trying to bring on animators to help you, or like maybe like a producer type person? I'm just trying to think about, like, obviously we have a lot of studios owners like listening too, but I'm just thinking, like, can you do that as like a smaller person as well? Like, I want to hear about the building a team up too, but I'm just trying to think about it on all levels, basically.
Definitely. I saw a great tweet the other day. There are some artists that need to be pushed, that need to be like, stop watching Netflix, like go work on the thing, right? And then there are other artists who'd be like, whoa, like slow down, play some Fortnite, please, like rest, like go out with your friends. Like I'm the latter, right? Like I would, it's wonderful to have a family because I love them, and they are a big priority for me. And if they weren't, I would just work all the time. I don't know what would stop me. If you're one of those people that need to slow down, like slow down. You're doing great. You do not need to keep pushing always. That's what I need to hear, because I just pushing always. But then also, like, it's so fun, right? Like I love it. And so I don't know, if I were freelancing, it'd be, find the time to just chip away little by little, figure out what you want to do, and just chip away at it. Just put a little bit into it each day, and eventually you'll get there. Pick something and stick with it, even if it sucks. It doesn't feel like it's going to get done. It could take you years, and that is fine. When your friends are coming back, so how's that thing you've been working on for 2 years? And it's like, I don't know, it's still going. You'll get to the end of it, and then you'll have a thing that you did, and it's awesome, and it's so fun. So yeah, just keep with it, but also take good care of yourself. Do what you need to stay afloat. Even with a staff of 10, like I'm still doing that, right? Like there's work that I don't want to be doing that we're doing, because it's keeping us going. Like you gotta get as many at bats, the things that you want to do, as possible. And the only way that you're going to do that is to keep going. But luckily, we're in an industry that it's preparing you for the things that you want to do, even if it's not the thing you want to do. That's one of the things that like I've really tried to look at everything that I've done up until this point is like, what is this preparing me for? Like, we are getting paid to make stuff. Like, we are getting paid to make stuff look good. And I think if you're here, whatever your big dreams are, whatever the big things that you want to do, I imagine there's something visual. There's something that is like you're just trying to make something that looks great, that makes people feel a certain way. And you might not get to do all that on every single project that you're doing, but you are getting to do some of that. You are getting to make something that looks good, and you can just keep honing your craft and keep getting better, even if it's not super fun all the time. And for us, money is a factor in that, but I don't think that should be a factor for most people. It's only a factor for us because we are a studio, especially if you're just working on your own. I think your skill set should replace that in that list of things. I think I read a very, very interesting book that I think everyone in motion design should read. It's called Range, and the author's name is escaping me, but it basically is this idea of generalists for specialists, and how in modern society, and especially modern work, and I think even more so in modern creative work, I think that having a range of experiences will only make you a better creator. It will only influence the work that you're doing now, and will also give you a greater pool of diverse experiences to pull together into any work that you do. So I would encourage you to branch out into new skill sets, because I think that's extremely important. Our industry is moving so rapidly, and I am very much in the generalist camp. If you want to be a specialist and go make hair at Pixar or something like that, that's great, and you should do that for sure. But I think it's changing so quickly, and having the most diverse possible experiences that you can, I think, will only benefit you. David Epstein, that's his name.
I think that makes sense. I feel like that was like so great. And I feel like all of us need that kind of stuff. I feel like you're just talking to me right now. I'm like, yeah, I need just take
I'm just
a
talking to
break.
me.
Yeah, I always do that. I basically like people say that you teach what you need the most. And I think that's definitely me. I'm always telling people about like goal setting and all this stuff because I'm like, I need to remind myself constantly goal setting and like prioritizing and all of this stuff. That's the stuff that I struggle with. And like totally the same as you, where you're like push all the time, and someone's going to tell you like, no, you can't slow down, like play a game, do all this stuff, play Moonrakers, yeah, with your friends.
There you go.
Yeah, I live that. It's so awesome. I just wanted to talk quickly. How did Ivy start? And like, because I wanted you to go into, because now you're a team of 10, I was really interested about like when you started, like who you first hired and things like that, just because I find that sort of stuff quite interesting.
Oh wow, yeah. We started. It was just me and Sam. We were doing some live action stuff back then. Sam was kind of the live action side of the company, and I was kind of the motion design animation
Right. Yeah.
side. And so early on, we hired Austin. Austin was our first hire, who's still with us today. Also hired a good friend of ours from college named Tyler. He was like a great photographer and kind of cinematographer type person. Yeah, and those were kind of our first hires, because that was like at the beginning we were making maybe a little bit more money on the live action stuff, because we moved to Nashville. There's like artists everywhere, and and at the time, $1,000 seemed like a lot. There's a lot of $1,000 videos to be made in Nashville for artists and things like that, which is cool. It's like, oh wow, this person's a famous musician. Let's do more of this. And then it's like, oh no, this is not actually that much money.
Yeah.
And that's not the goal. It's just like, we can't live on this. And so we quickly we realized that like we'd love to be world class someday. Like that's the goal, right? We just want to like keep getting better and better and better. And we didn't want to move to New York or LA, at least not yet, just because of, starting a business in New York or LA seemed insane, especially since we knew that like, frankly, just we're not very good yet. We've got a ton to learn. We still do. And so, so we're like, what can we do from Nashville? And that's animation. You can work with anyone from anywhere. All you need is a computer and some internet access. Andrew Kramer and Motion Hack. Yeah, so we just started focusing on that. We Tyler ended up moving on since we kind of started focusing on animation. Yeah, we just started working on building up a local client base. Austin, we've for whatever reason, we were just guessing, hired, we were very like business heavy at front, right? Like
Right.
Sam was our producer, and then we had Austin, who at the time we thought like, what do you do? Like, I don't know, go to like networking events. So we were going to like healthcare networking events where it's just like, hi, I'm Austin. Hi, I'm Zach. Man, I hated that stuff. Hated it so much, just in a room of people networking, and it was awful. But we got a few jobs that way, and actually some clients that we still have to this day, which is wild because we were charging them like $2,000 a video back then, and that has more than 10x. We've been able to stick to with each other through all that, which is fun. And really from there, it was just like a churning of, let's just keep getting better. Let's pour as much as we possibly can into every project, lose money on a lot of projects, and just try to level up each project that we can do so we can charge a little bit more for the next one, which allows us to spend more time on it and hire more people on it. Then over time, we started hiring freelancers. We started working with Alan Laster before he was the Alan Laster. And we got to work together on some stuff, working with like Mark Walczak, who's awesome, another local freelancer in Nashville. And then over time, we were like, oh, we're hiring a lot of freelancers. Like maybe we could bring some more people on. And that's kind of how it snowballed from there. It's you hire someone and then you don't use as many freelancers, and you use a bunch of freelancers, then you hire somebody again, and that kind of brings us to where we are now. We've got a wonderful team.
So like when you in the beginning, because I'm just thinking like a lot of people that listen to this, they're maybe trying to start a collective or a studio and things like that, and I don't necessarily think that's the right path for everyone. Just wanted to point that out, just out of interest for those people who do want to do that. How do you get from the kind of, okay, this is just me as like the freelancer, or there was like two of you, the freelancers, to like you saying that you could hire this guy where you're not sure really what he does? I think that's quite funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you make it make more money than just yourself, if that makes sense, to pay yourself?
Just a great question.
That's like the tricky bit, right? Because I feel like after that, like once you're kind of charging like the studio rates and stuff like that, I mean, I guess it depends on like where you are in your life too, and like how much you need to pay us. I mean, maybe that kind of thing comes into it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, to that end of it, it's like at the beginning, Sam and I basically were like, whatever we make, this was back when there was just the two of us. It was like, you get 25%, I get 25%. That's our salary for the month. And then 50% goes into computers and gear and savings and all that kind of stuff. And so that's what we did for probably the first 2-3 years of business. Now we just have fixed salaries. And basically our kind of thought is we just set that at what we need, very similar to what everyone working for us does. Maybe that'll grow or not. But really, we're both focused on trying to be able to do the type of work that we want to do. I guess to your other point is like, I don't know how other people do it. A really big part of it is like, you get someone like Oddfellows or Gunner and never use Giant Ant as an example there, just like the wonder unicorns of motion design. Jay is just a genius and it's not replicatable. Don't compare yourself to Giant Ant. It's a very bad idea. Never do it because they're awesome, and I don't know how they do what they do. But no, like I think the key to like those type of studios work is just like having the best work. Like it's just amazing, and the work seems to find them. That's not what we've been able to do, and I think that a lot of that has been our success on or our focus on the business side of things. We invested early, really just out of happenstance, really being a big fan of our friend Austin, who had a really big knack for this. And then also Sam spends most of his time now on thinking about new business, working with our current clients and trying to find new departments within those clients and trying to find people that they know that we can talk to and trying to position ourselves really well. And yeah, it just takes time. It takes time and people, not me, that really want to focus on growing the business side, because in our experience, that's taken just a lot of work and a lot of love through a lot of the things that we've been talking about to keep it consistent and to keep it going.
I think that's really interesting. It's like kind of what I was talking about earlier about if you don't want to be the person who's working on the business side of stuff, maybe it's having someone else like a friend who's a producer or something like that to like help you out. But then you need to be charging more money than like a freelance rate, right? Because otherwise, and then that probably comes down to like the work. Is the work good enough, and what kind of clients are you getting, and can you charge them more than like the freelancer across the road? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I mean, I only know the way that we did it, but I would just take it slow if I were you. I would just like start your studio and it's just you, and that's great. If you get more work than you get, then hire a freelance producer and have them help you. And then maybe if you are able to do that enough, then keep doing it. And maybe then you can bring on someone else. I also would highly recommend, if you are trying to start a studio, I would highly recommend finding a partner that you trust, that shares your goals. It's hard. Running a studio is hard. It can be lonely from the standpoint of a lot of it's on you, right? Like you've got a lot of people counting on you, and the numbers get big and scary, taxes. There's just a lot of scary things about it. And I found that it's been amazing to have someone to share that with and kind of share those burdens with, and to also share the decision making. It's just a sea of gray. There's no right answers to a lot of these things. Well, sometimes it'd be nice to just make a decision and that's that, and not have to run it by anybody. I found that that's far outweighed by having someone in Sam that I trust, that has a great mind and is a good listener and will fight vigorously for what he thinks is the right thing. And it's oddly like a marriage. It really is. You have to learn how to fight and have disagreements well, communicate fairly, have disagreements fairly. But I think you'll be better for it if you can find that person to start with.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. I just wanted you to tell us what's next for Ivy Studio and also where everybody can find you.
Yes. What is next for Ivy Studio? So I've been writing a television show. It's a sci-fi horror thriller animated.
That sounds great.
It's called The Carrier.
The Carrier.
For now.
Cool.
Am currently and will hopefully be writing and directing that with Seth Worley, who lives in Nashville now. We are building big into a real-time rendering pipeline in Unity. So that was what our game was made in, and that kind of has led to this festering of a thought of what if we were able to make a television show with a smaller staff and create something that we love visually and that has a tone that we're really excited about visually and from a storytelling perspective. And so we're making a sizzle, we're writing scripts, series arc, all that good stuff. And also trying to build out a pipeline that can work for both commercial animation, but also longer form narrative animation. And that's been a huge undertaking. I think we're right on the cusp of these kind of the world of game dev and the world of animation really coming together in a really cool and fun way. And I would like to be right there at the front of it. I would like our studio to be. So yeah, we're working on that a lot. We're prototyping our next board game. Would love to make another video game if we can figure out the financials of it. And yeah, and we've got some really fun work coming out this winter, coming into your homes on an Alexa device near you. So stay tuned for that. We're really excited about that. And yeah, and we're just going to keep going, try and make the best work that we can and keep getting better. Yeah, and you can find us. We've got a brand new website made by All Right Studio. Our website is iv.studio. You can follow us on Instagram at IV Animation when we frequently or infrequently choose to update it. And then, yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. That's where I hang out the most, at Zac Dixon, Zdixon. Yeah.
Well, that was great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was really awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much to Zac for coming on the show. I really enjoyed that, and I hope that you did too. We spoke about so many things. Zac actually told me after the show that he's working on a Christmas project, and we think it'll be out when you're actually listening to this. So what you need to do is, if you have an Alexa device, you need to say, "Alexa, call Santa." Sorry if that actually made your Alexa go off. That would be quite funny. Let me know if it did. We are at Motion Hatch on Twitter and Instagram. I'd love to know about that. Ivy made some videos for Alexa and you can see them there. I'm sure if you don't have an Alexa device, then you can see them on their website as well. So check out the show notes for all of the links. It's at motionhatch.com/56. I would love to hear from you. What was your favorite part of today's show? Let me know. We are at Motion Hatch on Twitter and Instagram, like I said. We are actually taking a short break for Christmas, so I hope that you will have a wonderful Christmas. Make sure that you do rest and spend some time with your friends and family, because that's what it's all about. And I hope that you get lots of lovely presents too. We will be back on the 7th of January, and thank you so much for listening to this show. Do mark your calendars for then, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you. See ya.